I used to get into a lot of fights with my parents because they didn't support my dreams. At one point, I shoved all the plates off the table, and I said, like it or not, I am moving to New York City to manage a linens and things. Did they go out of business? Yes. Am I currently climbing the ladder at Pottery Barn? Yeah. I do have a lady that sends me out for auditions for TV and film. I got into a fight with her because I felt she was sending me out for roles that didn't really speak to who I was. I sat her down. I said, "Do you even remember the direction that I specifically gave you?" And she said, "David, I'm sorry, but there's just no demand right now for a cyborg assassin that didn't count on falling in love." I said, "Well, what about my backup preference?" And she said, "I'm sorry, but there's also no demand for a romantic assassin that counted on falling in love, but did not count on being a cyborg." I said, "Well, what about my backup preference?" And she said, "You're right. I'll get to work and see if there are any roles commanding for Scarlett Johansson's zany troublemaking neck." I think it's time we enter the high adrenaline part of my set. One role that I did land was a mercenary in the latest Rambo movie. Alongside Rambo, we infiltrate a North Burmese fishing village, remove the ruthless dictator, destroy his local army, all the while managing to rescue American hostages. Unfortunately, I could not take the part because I was too busy actually doing those things. I keep a couple sentences locked and loaded to say into a cell phone should I find myself on a date with a beautiful woman. Sentence number 1. I don't care, William. Approve the funding for the women's shelter. Or find someone else to feature on next month's cover of Rogue Billionaire Next Door. Sentence number 2. I don't care, William. Return the Picasso. I didn't know when I bought it that the only place we had room to hang it was in front of the other Picasso. I do keep one sentence locked and loaded to say into a cell phone, should I find myself on a date with a girl I'm not really that into? I don't care, William. Approve the funding for the women's shelter. Or find someone else to feature on next month's cover of Rogue Entry-Level Data Clerk Next Door. My last girlfriend did break up with me, but we still chat online sometimes. I was just chatting online with her yesterday, and I went to use an emoticon, not one fit the bill. I had to actually write out in parentheses at the end of the sentence, disingenuous concern. I believe that we are our most attractive when seen in our element. That's why the second I meet a girl I'm into, the first thing I do is I show her video footage of me on stage. Becoming an Eagle Scout. You say, David, your unrestrained, verbalized excitement over being an Eagle Scout must make it difficult to rope in the ladies. I'd ask you to think again. Amidst my flirtations at a bar very recently, a woman whispered to me, "Young man, I'm thinking about giving into my desires tonight." I whispered back, "I too would enjoy a low-intensity nature walk." She went to say something but was interrupted by me turning my windbreaker into a small functional canoe. She wasn't impressed, so I had to play my ace card by properly identifying every tree on the block as either deciduous or semi-deciduous. Did it work? Operation Booyah. One of Sherlock Holmes's signature moves, Seattle, is that when he meets you for the first time, he will make impressive on-the-spot deductions about you to your face, whether you want that or not. Case in point, I will illustrate a small scene from Sherlock Holmes and the case of the speckled band. Here we go. Sherlock Holmes, thank you so much for taking my case. No worries, Miss Addington. We'll find your brother. Incidentally, I hope you weren't rattled too heavily by the defective left wheel on your horse and carriage this morning. Sherlock Holmes, I did have a defective left wheel on my horse and carriage this morning. How did you know that? You have no less than 7 mud splotches on your left elbow. Only a rickety wheel would kick up mud in that particular pattern, Miss Addington. I think the question is, how could I not know? Folks, Sherlock Holmes is a douchebag. I wish I could be one of his clients just so I could keep his ego in check a little bit. Let's run it from the top. Sherlock Holmes, thank you so much for taking my case. No worries, David Cope. We'll find your brother. Incidentally, I hope you weren't rattled too heavily by the defective left wheel on your horse and carriage this morning. I'm fine. Certainly you're curious as to how I deduced that you had a defective left wheel on your horse and carriage this morning. Hold on. Not interested. But as long as you're making on-the-spot deductions, couldn't help but notice that you and Watson live here pretty closely. Is that the master bedroom? What mysteries are you guys solving in there? Should I bust out my magnifying glass and crack the case of the forbidden persuasion not acceptable for another 100 years? And even then, only in urban environments? Cormac McCarthy, the author. Who's heard of him? Okay. If you don't know Cormac McCarthy, he wrote No Country for Old Men. He wrote The Road. He has a grant named after him. He's considered a literary genius. Okay? Now, for his Oprah interview, Oprah had to fly to a Santa Fe research laboratory, the only place that Cormac would agree to conduct the interview. In the interview, he said that he does not associate with other writers, that he only respects writers that tackle life and death, and that he specifically prefers the company of physicists. These are douchebag responses. He gets away with it because he's a legitimized genius. Right? I really hope I become a legitimized genius stand-up, because I have pre-written douchebag responses locked and loaded. That's wrong. David, thank you so much for conducting this interview. Oprah, thank you for braving the jungle safari / cave splunking adventure to find a map that led you to my office. You're under Stonehenge. David, how know that you are meant to be a stand-up? Oprah, that's like asking Aurora Borealis how it knew it was meant to be several times more awesome than a rainbow. David, they say that your comedy changes lives. Do you care to expound? Oprah, hoarse whisperers use my punchlines to negate the rage in wild stallions. Need I say more? David, they say that you're working on a writing project. Do you care to spill the beans? Oprah, if you haven't already figured it out, I write all of Obama's casual banter.